think that these companies did overproduce. After lockdown, they expected there still to be a boom or interest in luxury, but there's a lot of stuff sitting on these websites now, and they're being reduced considerably, and you're able to get bags for really good deals. I know when Matches Fashion was like closing down, some bags were, even from Loewe, heavily discounted. And this has changed the perception of luxury with consumers as well. And there's less of a hype around buying luxury or an urgency, because there is just so many platforms where you can buy luxury now. We no longer have to rely on shopping directly from the boutique. We have so many avenues where we can buy luxury at actually cheaper than the boutique. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Jess. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much. I was reading an article from the Business of Fashion explaining how luxury sales have gone down in China, and China is a huge market for luxury brands. Apparently last year, according to Google, 16% of luxury sales came from China. And if this market starts declining, well, this is going to greatly impact designer brands, and they're going to have to start making cuts. People may lose their jobs. Perhaps the sales associates are not going to get the commission they wanted, and it's not going to be as prosperous as maybe the last few years. Now, I do think that these brands didn't necessarily expect to receive this decline in sales, because you see a lot of brands struggling at the moment. Gucci, Burberry, now Louis Vuitton is still making billions, but you do see there is a shift, and perhaps that's because there's less of a trend to buy luxury. People are trying to be low key. Maybe it seemed a little bit distasteful to be wearing logo mania brands, but I don't think that's the only reason. And this article has actually opened up my eyes to something that is happening in China that I don't know if it's as relevant in Australia yet, but it is the grey market. Buying your designer bags, your Hermes, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Goyard on the grey market. What happens is there was an app called Diwu, which I wasn't familiar with, but it's basically a platform where people can sell goods, including designer bags. And what people do is they go to countries like Japan, where the exchange rate, well, if you were to convert your money into yen now, it would be a great exchange rate. So people in America and China, they could actually buy luxury for a really good deal if they go to Japan. A few months ago, I know the yen was quite down. So people go to Japan and they buy up Louis Vuitton, Chanel classic flaps, all that, and they bring it back to China and they sell it through Diwu. And people who live in China can then grab a deal. They can get a Chanel classic flap for sometimes 30% less than the retail price. Or another example, the Business of Fashion article raised was like a classic monogram Louis Vuitton Speedy can sometimes be 20% less. And you can get discounts if you buy things overseas for like 40% off sometimes. I know that if I was to buy a Birkin in Europe, it would be much cheaper than it would be in Australia. These apps like Diwu are impacting on the sales in luxury boutiques in China, which is greatly affecting the overall profits of the global business, because they rely a lot on the Chinese market. I do think that Diwu, it's not an app that I'm familiar with, but it is something that luxury brands will probably have to address in the future. I guess Chanel, they always try and do price harmonization and make all the prices fair across the world, but because of the exchange rate at the moment, you can't snap things up for much cheaper in other countries. Australia is a country that is really expensive. With Diwu, it's a lot more accessible as opposed to maybe shopping through Instagram, because I know a lot of Australians as well shop through personal shoppers, and you can grab a Chanel classic flap in Europe for cheaper if you were to buy it in Europe, even with the personal shopper fee, than if you were to buy it in Australia. Or perhaps even there's personal shoppers that can grab things from Hermes in Europe and ship it to Australia, and buying things in Europe is much cheaper. So I do think that, yeah, this app is pretty interesting actually, and I do wonder if something like this will come to Australia one day. Another thing that is impacting on the sales of luxury brands, it's not necessarily going to impact Hermes, Chanel, and Louis Vuitton, but it does impact brands like Gucci, Saint Laurent, a lot of Kering brands, even Burberry, is when they wholesale their products to other online websites. So for example, Net-a-Porter, Matches Fashion has gone bust, or even Farfetch. They wholesale their products to these websites to sell, and then they're able to sell them at a discount. So I know that when you sign up to Net-a-Porter, you get 15% off. And you would think, like, if you go to the Saint Laurent boutique, why would you buy a Kate bag for full price when you can go to Net-a-Porter and get 15% off. I do think that that has trained consumers to look for the best deal everywhere. And this grey market on Daewoo is another avenue where you can get something for cheaper than from the boutique. This is greatly impacting the sales in the the boutiques, the luxury boutiques. With Matches Fashion, and they've gone bust now, but something like Net-a-Porter, I do think that their sales are impacting as well, because I think that these companies did overproduce. After lockdown, they expected there still to be a boom or interest in luxury, but there's a lot of stuff sitting on these websites now, and they're being reduced considerably, and you're able to get bags for really good deals. I know when Matches Fashion was like closing down, some bags were, even from Loewe, heavily discounted. And this has changed the perception of luxury with consumers as well. And there's less of a hype around buying luxury or an urgency, because there is just so many platforms where you can buy luxury now. We no longer have to rely on shopping directly from the boutique. We have so many avenues where we can buy luxury at actually cheaper than the boutique, and we don't necessarily care about all the thrills of the luxury experience anymore, because sometimes the luxury experience is just not worth it. Now, there is a risk with buying on the grey market. I do assume that there is some fakes interwoven in the grey market as well, like on websites like Daewoo, but I'm sure there are very reputable sellers on there as well where you could trust them, and you just know that you're getting a good deal because they bought those goods in Japan or Europe or something like that. I do think that there is an area where if I was in China, I would definitely look at Daewoo as an alternative to buy something from the boutique. Like if I wanted to get a Speedy for 20% off, why not? And if there was a trusted seller, you would go for that over going directly to the boutique. So I wonder if luxury brands are going to come for these sellers, but at the same time, they're not doing anything illegal. They're just are providing a service for people where they can get things for better prices, like a personal shopper. So guys, have you ever shopped on Daewoo before? And do you think that it's something you would be interested in doing? I think that with these brands overproducing luxury and it getting easier to buy, there is less of an interest and an urgency to buy luxury these days. And I think that brands have to be careful with that and overproducing, because you're gonna think in 10 years, surely the novelty there is gonna fizzle out. Anyways, I just wanted to talk about that today. I'm gonna quickly show you guys my bag of the day. Today I'm gonna wear my mini plume bag, and this is in chev leather, black with palladium hardware, and I've decorated it with my birdie charm, which has more of Sylvester. Birdie is one of my favorite bag charms. I would probably buy another one. With this birdie charm, it's a lot shorter than the Pegasus, so I find that it looks really good on mini bags like Mini Kelly, Mini Bolide, Mini Plume. On bigger bags, the length of it looks a little bit small, but yeah, this is quite cute. Very simple bag, but with the charm, it just adds a little bit of pizzazz. Thanks for listening to my video today, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!